Hello and a very good afternoon to everyone. I am Basundhara from Logistics Insider and I welcome you all to our very special LinkedIn Live event. CargoFL presents Supply Chain Driving Customer Delight during the festive season in association with Shadowfax. While acclimatizing ourselves with the most unpredictable year of our lives, eclipsed by the coronavirus crisis, and yet remaining our strongest selves, we have entered into the most decorated phase of the year, a phase that brings to the fore joy, hope, and the promise of a better tomorrow. The festive season is indeed the time of the year that demands agility and the best of business strategies to cater to crowds' expectations and clientele alike. As companies are forecasting to exceed all previous benchmarks this festive season, we take a closer look at how they are ramping up their supply chains to match up to the customers' demands and expectations and the measures that they've put in place for the same. It will indeed serve as an opportunity for the industry to redeem what they have lost and to rise up from the ashes. Speaking along these lines, we have an expert panel with us today who will be shedding light on the various issues that has had a bearing on the supply chain during the festive season. We have with us Mr. Rajat Sharma, who is the head of SCM at Hamilton Housewares.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the event, sir. We have with us Mr. KARTIK Shah, who is the head supply chain at Sennheiser India.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon.
Hello, sir. We have with us Mr. Alexandre Amine Soufiani, the managing director at FM Logistic India, and also someone who is celebrating his birthday today with us on this event. Happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and very good afternoon. And it's a great way to celebrate one birthday today with a very great discussion with a great panel group. Thank you very much.
Indeed, sir. We are fortunate that you're celebrating it today with us.
Thank you very much. My privilege.
We have with us Mr. Deepesh Kuruppath, the founder and CEO at CargoFL.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Basundhara, for the introduction. We are also very happy to present this conference. So thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure, sir. And we have with us Mr. Aniket Nathvani, AVP Sales and BD at Shadowfax.
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks, Basundhara. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. It is our pleasure to have you with us. We are pleased to have you all with us today, and I look forward to an extremely enriching time ahead. Before we start off, a note to the viewers that we'll also be taking questions from the comment section below. So feel free to type in your questions. You can address them to a particular speaker, or you can just address them to the entire panel. So without further ado, I would like to hand over the reins of today's discussion to Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee, who is the Associate Director at Deloitte India, who will be moderating our event today.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. I think moderator's job, I think, is easy because the panelists will do the talking, but I will mainly. But with that note, let me just put an opening remark, and then the format will be in 3 sections. First, I will give my opening comments. Then I will ask each of the panelists to talk a little bit about them, the kind of work they do, and their initial insights on the topic which we are discussing today. Second section, we will have a more focused discussions. There will be certain set of questions which we will discuss and to see how best we can address the current topic. And the third section, what we talk about is we will take questions from the audience so that it becomes a more of an interactive and not a monologue. So let me just get started. If I look at it, we are talking about 3 things: supply chain, customer delight, festive season. Now, if you look at it, traditionally, supply chain was always supposed to be a support function that we will deliver the goods. But if you look at it, the pandemic has actually told us that you can have the best product, you can have the best services, but if you cannot really deliver, humanity will not survive. So essentially, supply chain was always very, very critical, but essentially it was not that much acknowledged. And if you ask me, my personal view is your supply chain starts from your customer. Not everybody thinks like that, but if you look at it, the initial years, the manufacturing guys were the big daddies, but if you look at it over the years, there was more an integrated view, and people started looking at supply chain as an important function. In fact, now if you look at the board at any company, you will see a representation from the supply chain function. And there's a very interesting study which says that the next CEO will come from the supply chain function. So with this positive note, let me invite Lieutenant Colonel Vijay Nair to talk a little bit about the kind of work he does and his initial insights on what he thinks about the topic.
Thank you very much, Deep. And sorry I had joined late. Technical hitches as always. So I'm once again on my mobile. I hope I'm clearly audible. I can see
Yes.
myself clear. Possibly I'm audible too. Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, I always feel that if you look back just about 3 or 4 years back, uh, supply chain was never part of the customer experience kind of a discussion. It used to be the operations, the front end people, and the marketing people. But of late, if you see the last 3 or 4 years, customer service or consumer experience has taken the front stage, and supply chain has got a huge role to play. Like you said, the consumer experience or the supply chain starts from the customer side. Yeah, it has got two ends. It's like a two-headed snake, right from the manufacturing to the consumer. So what happens is that where is the all that rush that comes to us during this festival season or anytime there's a promo, is that when the products reaches late. So after that, we all get into some different kind of a gear, taking all upon ourselves. We are kind of the middle people in the whole supply chain. We are just before the middle mile, and we are the people, the executors of middle mile, where I think all the inefficiencies of supply chain get accumulated. So it is we who spend those sleepless nights and making sure that the product reaches the store. So I do like to extend this whole gamut right through the entire length of the supply chain. When we say that if the manufacturers make in time, if the if the distribution system is right, if they have the products reaching the distributors in time, if our ordering goes off in time and the vendors deliver in time and not in the last moment, all this actually ends up in making the availability. If you look at the way supply chain's responsibility would be, singularly, if I have to put two big heads to it, is the availability at the store. The second is the after sales service. So and also like to clarify that when you say customer experience is very good in supply chain is customer experience, but overall there's a difference between the customer experience and the consumer experience. So a customer, anybody is a customer, anybody who buys is a customer. Consumer is a person who actually consumes the product. So for us it is the customer really. We the consumer portion of it is more managed by the front end guys. For us it is customer, internal customer the store, internal customer the merchandising, internal customer the vendor. So we are all dealing with this particular element. Another element that we have to pay a lot of attention is the way we move the products. Now a customer is very particular about the condition of the product he receives. Now you may have experienced even yourself that when you walk into a store, even if it's a toothpaste that you're buying, the tube inside is absolutely fine. But when you see a slightly bent carton, you don't want it. You, by nature, you pick up the other toothpaste which is got, it actually means nothing really. But that's a huge customer behavior. And again, it's the way we transport the products. So in my take, when we talk of customer experience, I will take the complete spectrum of the customer experience, right since the time how the product is ordered, received, GR into the store, put away, the WMS functioning, ability to pick it soon, and all entailing to making the product available at the store in enough numbers. And enough numbers also matters from the way it comes from the back, from the downstream. And finally is the activities that we do in the after sale. In the after sale through, it is one of the areas where the supply chain really touches the customer. Now, this element, although it used to be done before, earlier Gamcha fellow could go and deliver a product, but now that's not possible. So that after sale element and what is the experience that we really give to the customer when we are finally handing over the product to the customer is also a very great element, which again is something I'm sure we'll touch during our discussions over here. So my take is entire supply chain from end to end as a contributor to the customer experience and the activity we take in after sales, which are two major content that supply chain is directly involved in the customer experience. That's all.
So excellent insights. In fact, if you look at it, the way the customer interacts with the company is at every point of the supply chain and not just only at the. So that's the point which Lieutenant Colonel harped upon, that it's the total customer experience what we are looking at. So now I will invite Mr. Kartik Shah to talk a little bit about himself, about the kind of work which he does, and what are his comments on the topic which we are discussing today.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Sandeep, for giving me an opportunity to talk, and thanks CargoFL and Logistic Insider. So basically, I am responsible in Sennheiser for end-to-end supply chain and customer service. So it's a complete value chain, I would say. And what my learning throughout the journey in supply chain is that what matters is not just the order from the sales, but it also matters that when and how you delivered. So value creates when it get delivered to the customer as per the expectation and when the need arises. So that creates the brand value. And during this pandemic, a lot of good learnings, I would say. And for supply chain colleagues, as Mr. Vijay said, that value for supply chain has increased drastically. Reason being that this was the tough time wherein demand was coming very in scarcity, and that demand was actual demand. That was not the created one. And that was the time when your logistic resources in terms of transportation and other connections were not fully available. That time, if you are making goods available on time, it matters a lot. And Sennheiser being into the industry of audio, which was the crucial part during this pandemic to work from home. So headphones, mics, and everything. So we were having a fortunate thing that earlier, before this pandemic, people used to say that why we have so much of inventory. And fortunately, the additional inventory which we were having or carrying, that got utilized, and we were able to achieve that customer happiness and also the revenue. So in both terms, whether it's customer or whether it's organization, it helped us in both terms. Yeah, thanks.
I think excellent insight. In fact, if you look at it, to take this analogy forward, before this pandemic, the telecom companies, the internet companies were not doing well. But if you look at it, the valuation of Zoom has gone to a record level. So that's what actually a black swan event can. But having said that, that's more of an exception. But having said that, again, Mr. Kartik harped upon how important, how critical is supply chain. Now people have started realizing. So next, I will invite Mr. Rajat Sharma, if you can just briefly talk about the kind of work which you do and your initial thoughts on the theme which we are talking about.
Thank you, Sandeep. And I think the table has been laid by Colonel Nair and KARTIK. And I think there's no doubt that this whole COVID episode has put supply chain on the forefront, right? When we look at stuff like customer delight, especially combining it with festive period, I mean, this is a period which used to be the supply chain, golden time of the year, even pre-COVID. But post-COVID, it has become an extremely interesting period because right from the start, where we want to provide customer delight, the whole buying behavior of these consumers and the customers has changed. We are seeing shifts in patterns right from buying, from footfall to the channel, to the way they want to receive the product, to the kind of returns policies and processes. Of course, there has also been a huge shift in the whole payment processes. So we're dealing with a completely new animal, if we could say that. But so I work for Hamilton Housewares, which is recognized by the Milton brand. And what we've also realized is that there has been immense learning across the supply chain, whether you talk about financial crunches on the supply end, or how do we deal with the partners? We've rented spaces. What do we do? Do we pay for them or do we not pay for them? What do we do with our trucking partners? We also set up last year a lot of our own company-owned e-commerce centers, which has been a boon to us in this period. But essentially, we had to go through an extremely steep learning curve, because while we were learning how to manage this whole new channel, and how to create customer delight, while also keeping ourselves afloat on the financial side. We have financial departments who are partnering us on that side. While we were learning this, COVID hit, and it's just been a completely new world for us. But that said, I think it's the beauty of these supply chain practitioners, who've even pre-COVID, we've learned, because of festive, non-festive periods, because of those curves, going up and down. We've learned how and where to create that flexibility. How will we create agility in our supply chains? Whether we look at space, whether we look at dispatch capacities, whether we look at certain co-pack operations, or whether we look at variable spaces and variable engagements. I think it's our learnings of the past that have come to very good use right now. And I just hope it's going to be a very, very interesting discussion today. Thank you.
I think that's a great point in terms of agility, because people feel that it's a very easy thing to do, or it's taken as granted. But if you look at it, the way everybody has been struggling, because nobody was prepared for this. I think that shows that the power of the supply chain. So next, I will move to Mr. Alexandre. I think today is his birthday, and what a way to celebrate his birthday, because I really envy you for that. So Alexandre, if you can just share your initial thoughts about the kind of work which you do, and your initial thoughts about this theme, because you come from the logistics. You are actually the guys who are actually taking care of the forward move or the reverse movement. So over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thanks to Mr. Vijay, KARTIK, and Rajat for their great inputs. Very clear and straight to the point. So thank you for the greetings for birthday. Thanks to everyone. And it's indeed a great way to celebrate one's birthday. So coming back to the subject, so we spoke about the importance of supply chain and how it is becoming now in the heart of let's say, the strategic business plans of all the companies, and especially during the festive seasons. Actually, supply chain was always extremely important during the history, from the beginning. The civilizations around the world were created thanks to exchanges of supply chain, thanks to commerce, thanks to movements of goods and people, travelers. Like if we speak about the Silk Roads from China to Europe, and the Marco Polo, also movements from Europe to China, going, of course, from India and going from Central Asia, and the kind of ideas, thoughts, concepts, all that traveled through supply chains. If I give another parallel about the importance of supply chain, war, and Mr. Vijay would say like very clear, practical things about it. During a war, if you cut the supply chain of your enemy, he cannot defeat you. So one of the ways how to neutralize your enemy is you cut his supply chain. The way if you want to seize a city, so you cut its supply chain, you starve the people inside. So It means that supply chain was always one of the most important tools spearheading any strategy, whether it is a positive economical strategy or it is defense or attack, or so it's in the heart. And today we are getting more and more sensitized about how it is important. And it started with the e-commerce pure players, where now there is a direct contact between the producer to the end consumer. So before there was some intermediates of the brick and mortar system that could manage many issues, but today it's direct, which means that supply chain should be perfect, and expectation is built today within all the customers. It's not acceptable anymore to have 1 day delay or 2 days delay. Before it was the case, today it's not possible. And COVID, as Mr. KARTIK and Rajat Mr. Rajat said, is that now with the COVID, it's becoming more and more important. And since it's essential and it's extremely important to get the goods on time because of rarity, because of issues that people faced during the lockdown, it became central to be excellent. I will just give a presentation of FM Logistic. So FM Logistic, we are a family-owned company, part of FM Logistic Global, which is a French company created in 1967. We are one of the leading contract logistics service provider, covering warehousing, but also primary and secondary distribution. We are experts in sectors like FMCG, retail, food, e-commerce, industrial, and auto. In India, we are in the top 3 service providers. We are one of the leading providers of the multi-customer facilities, which is one of the best tools, and I will speak about that, best tools also to manage the peaks, because we can have very quick scalability and synergies of resources. So in FM Logistic India, we are 5,000 people. We manage 60 lakh square feet of warehousing. So we are growing by 30%, between 20 to 30% year on year. So we are one of the fast growing, investing heavily in India, building our own warehouses as well in multiple metros in India, and also partnering with very strong A-grade facility builders to offer the best services to our customers. If we speak about if we speak about the peak season part, I would say, before we start answering the questions, I would say that it starts with a very rigorous planning, a very great partnership between the service providers and the customer, and the distribution in charge, or the transporters. Starts with that too. It needs very rigorous execution, keeping the flexibility and the agility, because different surprises and challenges can happen during the process. It's not a happy journey always. Sometimes there is some challenge. So we need to have a very rigorous plan, but we need to have also backup plans, business continuity plans, fallback scenarios, so as by the end of the day, the execution of the plan can be smooth, and we can always find very quick solutions for any challenge that we find in between, so as we can always please and make sure that the end consumer is very happy and very satisfied about the quality and the timing of the delivery. So this is from my side as an introduction. Thank you.
I think excellent inputs. In fact, if you look at it, remember that it's companies don't compete. In fact, supply chains which compete. So that's actually reiterates this point what Alexandre mentioned. So next I move to Aniket. So welcome, Aniket. So if you can just talk about the kind of work which you do and your initial comments on the theme which we are talking about today.
Thanks, Sandeep. Glad to be part of this panel, and also Shadowfax is glad to be associated with Logistics Insider to make this session possible. I lead business development and sales with Shadowfax, and just to talk a little bit about Shadowfax, that we started off in 2015. Purely in the hyperlocal space. We started off with by doing food deliveries, moved to groceries, and today we are a pan-India player. So we present across 7,500 plus pin codes, and we do on a daily basis across our business models around 5 lakh plus shipments on a daily basis. And in these across these models, we handle different product categories. So we deliver food, we deliver groceries, we deliver e-commerce parcels, we deliver B2B heavy shipments, and a large portion of our movement actually is B2C. So I would say 80% of our deliveries are actually happening at the customer doorstep. So we understand customer experience very closely. While we are a B2B player, but we understand customer experience and what really impacts. And in today's growingly hyperlocal scenario, how closely we are related to the NPS scores across different delivery services. So so that is something that we partner with our clients very, very closely with, and we work across aggregators like a Swiggy or Zomato in food. We work across the board with grocery players, whether they're offline brick and mortar players or whether e-grocers, and of course the entire long tail of e-commerce. So herein it is very important, a metric to be on time and in full, right? And I think that is something that comes across in different ways, whether it's a slot based delivery for where you want your groceries to be delivered within a specific 2 hours in the day, or whether you want your food delivered in 30 minutes, hot and warm at your doorstep, or whether you want your mobile phone to reach you within exactly 3 days of ordering the shipment. So all of these deliveries we manage on our platform, and customer experience is something that we are deeply passionate about. Coming to the festive season, of course, I think which is the theme. So overall across our network, we have spent months of planning this period. We are also strategically partnered with Flipkart, so we see their entire the Big Billion Day, which is currently happening, which everyone will be aware of, and across e-commerce there is a surge expected, which we are actually right now in the middle of. And for this, the how it impacts us on the supply side is we really need to ramp up our middle mile, our last mile, our first mile fleet. We have in fact ramped up our space. We have gone 2x in terms of space across all major metros for this period, anticipating the peak loads. And in terms of shipments, we see a 2.5 to 3x kind of a surge in the volumes that we'll be handling. So it also is and specifically in the context of the pandemic, we have to ensure that we create conditions for our people on ground to be working in a safe and secure environment. And also because it's like kind of a day-night exercise, and it's kind of a festival for us internally. So ensuring that the conditions are there in terms of our spaces, whether there's music all night or food being delivered to our facilities, etc. So we are deeply prepared, in terms of our entire supply chain for this kind of a festive rush.
So I think interesting observations, because everybody talks about last mile, but good that you, Aniket, you spoke about first mile, middle mile. So I think this is something very, very interesting. So next we move to Deepesh. In fact, they've been doing a lot of cutting edge work on the technology space. So welcome, Deepesh. So if you can talk a little bit about the kind of work which you do, because I'm sure our audiences will be interested, because right now the kind of digitization which never happened in 2 years, it happened in 2 months. Essentially, that is why a lot of traction around that. So if you can just talk about that, it'll be very, very helpful for our audience.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. I think it's very, very, I'll say it's like 200% true. Because in last 6 months, the number of orders that we have seen, the number of, requirements from the customers that we have seen has like gone up like anything. Right? We thought initially when the COVID started in March, we thought maybe, the things may not be that good going forward kind of a thing. So we were in that kind of a mindset, and companies were ramping down. So luckily we held ourselves, we didn't ramp down, we kept ourselves going. So it was like a V kind of a curve. First 2 months it was going down, but after 2 months, the way it picked up was like everyone wanted some piece or some part of the technology. And I'll give you an example. There's a customer, they are into manufacturing space in Pune. It's a very big company, it's an international company. We have been following up with them because we provide supply chain visibility technology. So we are very strong on supply chain analytics, right? So be it ML or AI, so that's our shop, that's our bread and butter, and we are good at that. So we have been showing them demos from last 1 year, and they said, okay, like it's not that high of a priority for them because they can do a lot of things in Excel. So it's very simple, right? When you can do some things in Excel, then why do you need a technology? So that's how the perspective comes up. But then I got a call from this customer 2 months back, and they said, no, now we really need a technology in place. That's because they want to accurately predict, how the business might be based on the trends that are happening. Okay, now, whenever I talk this to the customers, sometimes customers think that all these are something like bookish. It may or may not happen like that. But I have like 2 decades of experience, and my experience all goes into like last 5 to 6 years, I have been into machine learning and AI. So I know the in and outs. Yes, to be frank, there is a lot of hype out there. So please don't believe everything that you hear about ML and AI. That's not true. In the end, it's a programmatic approach. Machine learning is nothing but a set of algorithms. I can count all the algorithms on my hand which are useful. About 99% of algorithms may not be useful, other than you can use that in deep space or maybe for some, some kind of research. But the practical applications, which include in business, I'm talking about the business perspective, especially in supply chain, maybe only about 1 to 2%. So we know those algorithms. We know how to put those algorithms together. We have people who are like with operation research background, who have done PhD in operations research, who consult with us. They are my mentors also. We have people who have developed algorithms, convert those operation research models into algorithms programmatically. So we know how to do that. So with that background, whenever we talk to customers at CargoFL, we tell them that please take it easy. Don't assume that something will just happen overnight. We will go in a stepwise process. We'll phase it out. It will be incremental. So your ROI is low. As all customers come to us and say, hey, Deepesh, to implement this, then I knew itna kitna kharcha aega, all the cost involved, right? So the first thought process is, will I lose money? Like, what will be my ROI? If X is my expense, will it be plus Y? What it means, or will it be like minus Y? So will my X expense go down, or will I start earning more? So expense remain the same, but my earnings go up by plus Y. So the plus Y to minus Y is what they always calculate in mind. That's exactly where we go and say, okay, let's take a step-by-step approach. You decide within your organization what is the first problem statement that you want to address. Is it on the demand side or is it on the supply side? So let's take one at a time. Let's do a pilot. Let's see if that works. Let's calculate the ROI. Once you get the ROI, because we are also in a process where we have to select the right algorithm for that particular company, for that supply chain, and we have to optimize. So that way, even customers get confidence. Yes, these guys are not selling a product, but these guys are selling a process. So we just last month on August 15th, actually, we launched a very major data analytics platform for one of our major customers in Pune. They have 10,000 plus employees, mostly blue collared. That's how usually supply chain is also, right? We have drivers and other kind of people who don't understand technology. And we have calculated the ROI. Their savings has went up by 5%, which I believe is good at this point also, given these times, which is also a very big number. And we are now gathering other metrics as we go. So that's what we do. So I'm the founder and CEO of CargoFL. So at CargoFL, we are building a logistics technology platform. It's a technology ecosystem. Our vision is, we personally believe somewhere deep inside that we can build reusable models. What it means is, if I can do something for last mile in India, we can take it out and deploy that in US and Canada and other geographies with some tweaks, which are configurations. But the fundamental model of a last mile or a first mile remains the same, with some changes here and there from a technical perspective. So we are building like a mother framework where all these components can sit together, and we are categorizing it by verticals. So we have customers in the retail space. So we have built a lot of technical modules in the retail space. We have customers in the petroleum space, diesel and petrol. So we are building it there. We have customers in the manufacturing space. So we are building that kind of an ecosystem. And coming back on the festive season, I personally believe a little planning from a technology perspective, a little addition like a salt, how you add it. If we can bring in technology at different aspects of it, If we trust technology with the right partners, it can do wonders. It can do beautiful, beautiful things. But on the other side, just a warning also, if the implementation goes not in the right angle, it can cost you also. So we need to have the right partners and who understand technology, who have been that, who have seen it, get the customer references, testimonials, and then go with those kind of companies. Thank you, guys.
So I think excellent insight, very, very candid that don't believe whatever is spoken about AI and ML, but
Yeah,
see that you have the right partner and you have the right technology and you have a proper business case to handle that. So
exactly.
next I come back to Lieutenant Colonel Vijay Nair. In fact, you have spent a lot of, you have a lot of experience in the industry. So if you can share some of your insights on some of the fulfillment practice which you have seen or you have done during the festive season, in light of the customer delight, what we are talking about.
All right, Sandeep. Firstly, let's understand the customer behavior during festival season, and what is this festival season? Why is it that this festival is suddenly you decided that festival should be discussed over here? So, what happens during a festival season? Number one, the demand goes up, the assortment goes up, the uh, the insistence on the customer to receive a product on a particular day goes up tremendously. Dashara ke din chahiye, yeah, he wants it on the day of Dhanteras. So what happens? These days generate huge amount of orders. Now, another thing is that the stores need to not only hold the stuff, they have to make it available to the customer also in the shortest period of time. Now, how does this Omni come up? I mean, Omni is also a thing which has been space tracked during the last 4 months. So all the companies which were pure retailers or who had Omni in the planning stage suddenly got a injection of mutants and they just shot up. So Omni is also a desire which has come out of the customer requirement, where the customer wants multiple channels of ordering, multiple channels of delivery. Now, you may provide multiple channels for ordering, but that has to be supported by a very robust mechanism of delivery. So that's where we in the supply chain comes up. So the volumes, the delivery volume goes up. The total number of vehicles available in the market is that 100. The same 100 was available yesterday before this. The same 100 is available today. Just because the volumes have gone up, the vehicles suddenly have become 200. That's why people like Shadowfax and all have come up. So the question is that, do you want to drop your standards during the volume when the volume goes up? Till yesterday you were delivering in 3 hours or 6 hours of following day. Today, suddenly, when the festival season has come, with the volumes going up, do you wish to tell your customer, now I can't do it in 24 hours, I'll take 48 hours or I'll take 72 hours? So, so there is another, I'm just calling out the peculiarities that happen during a festival season. Now, if you, I will not call it a, I will not call it a, what do you say, a challenge. I'll call it as something that we as supply chain have to overcome, come what may. So, uh, these are some of the peculiarities of festival season. Now, what do we do during these times? So, of course, technology is supporting everything, Deepen. But once you have the technology supporting each one of these things, like not a little planning, a lot of planning. A lot of planning needs to be done in advance to make sure how the products are coming into the warehouse, how the products are going now in a large format which has got multiple stores all over the country. So you have to make sure they not only, if the product has reached Mumbai, it has to also reach Nasik, it has to reach uh, Pune, it has to reach multiple areas. How do you make sure that the product which is made available in the last moment reaches over there? During this season, there are a lot of new product introductions also, maybe in the electronics field, in the gifting area. Now, this is a season of gifting. So a lot of gifting area, also a lot of new products are introduced. There are a lot of purchases which are happening on this front. These are again, once again, I say they are fragile products. So what is it that you do? Number one is a lot of planning to make sure that the warehouses get the stocks in time, and then you have to plan the assortment at the stores. What can be kept in the stores? What can be kept in the back stores? Can you have dark stores where you can maintain something in the proximity of the customer so that they can be quickly moved on to the stores? Can you have mobile stores which are stock vehicles which are standing close to the stores from which you can actually draw onto the PayPal? can you use technology and address that as a mini warehouse so that that additional availability, space is also not expandable. Space is fixed. So how do you increase that space is by using some kind of innovative ideas supported by technology. And we know in our supply chain that we need to have the inventory accounted every time. So how do you keep sure? So probably that's where Deepesh will come inside. He will give us a vehicle. He can dominate it as a temporary warehouse. And from there, the store could easily draw and add to the stock, which it may run out during this huge footfall season. So these are some of the things I feel are practices that we need to do. How do you manage your shortage of transportations? So again, it is the duration, number of hours the transportation can be used. So can you keep the stores open in the night for receiving? Can you extend the hours of receiving at the warehouses? Can you rotate? How many times can you rotate the truck? If you got to rotate the truck, will you have to move the inventory somewhere closer to the distribution points? So these are some of the questions that we need to keep answering ourselves. That how do you make use of the fixed available resources? The resource is not going to change. You may add some additional people, but they are inexperienced people who will actually ruin the operation rather than supplement it, because inexperienced hands will make you take double the time. You just have the satisfaction of having additional hands. But the same hands, how do you make sure that they do more? Again, the use of technology again comes inside. Use of scanner-based technology, use of IoTs, use of automatic receiving during these seasons, and all with lots and lots of planning. And I should touch upon the delivery mechanism. So I talked of not violating on the promise and the general times to the promise which is given during festival time. We have seen year on year these big companies who got massive sales. Uh, they during the festival season they falter. We have seen massive failures year before last, where Amazon, Flipkarts could not deliver in time. There was huge accumulation in the warehouses. Uh, Nobody desires to do a bad job. It is that you are not adequately prepared, or you didn't anticipate the volumes that came. So when you anticipate, when the volume was anticipated, you did not believe it. So these are the places where you make mistakes. And festival season is always good to err on the positive, over ensure rather than make a mistake. And lastly, about returns. So if it's always said that if you have a good return policy and if you've got a good return mechanism, the customer will come more often to you. It's a part of a customer experience. So how quickly are you in a position to replace a damaged product to a customer? Customer has bought it with a need. You have in the first instant satisfied the need. Now what happens if the need was not good? The product broke, there was damage, there was a dent, it did not work, it was a DOA. How quickly can you make sure that this is replaced and his need is fulfilled is going to be a very, very big plus. So reverse also undertakes a lot of planning and processes, not only within the brands themselves, but also with the vendors, the suppliers, the manufacturers. How do you build this whole process up? Will play a very large role in again the customer experience and enhancing his experience part of it. That's all, Sandeep.
So I think you have touched upon the way the actually the practical challenge is the reality at every aspect of the supply chain, because typically when we talk about, people are worried only about deliveries, but there is a whole lot of planning function which is equally important, which we tend to overlook. So essentially, I will just extend the same thing to Mr. Karthik. So essentially, you deal with a very different kind of goods. I know it's a premium goods, but given the price sensitive Indian market, so what is your take and what are the kind of stocking policies? I know the pandemic has thrown most of us out of gear, but still, if I talk about a festive season, the kind of pricing which you have, so what are your views on pertinent from the Indian market to address these?
So is that to me,
Yeah,
Sandeep?
Mr. Karthik. Yeah, I was talking about the pricing.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
missed in between something, hence I was a bit doubtful that
No, I
whether I
think
need to
because
answer
you
or
deal with a different kind of products, that's what I was saying, that India is a very price sensitive market.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
will also have your
No, no,
stocking policies and the pricing. So
correct.
how do you handle this? Because that will be very interesting for the audience to know.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, first of all, thing is that India being, as you said, price sensitive market. and we bring into the premium segment of audio. So who comes to us is someone who is brand conscious, who is aware of what the sound is, what the audio mean to them. It's not just that bass would matters a lot, which is just typical mentality of all of us. I would say we want that huge sound in the background and noise, whereas Sennheiser believes in quality of sound. So therein customer comes our premium and what they expect us, like if I talk about this pandemic. So there is one typical headset which we have, which generally goes into the call centers, or I would say KPOs or BPOs, that was out of stock across India in offline as well as in online. Because suddenly needs arise that all of us need to work from home. We need to do everything online. So, and most importantly, it's not that India who is suffering, it's across globe and everyone needs this the most. So how to align in the background for the production, for the spares, because we are into the localization, I would say, wherein we make the product locally but we procure the components from across the globe. Like one component comes from Hong Kong, another come from Malaysia, third come from Taiwan, and fourth come from Brazil. So, how to align with that factories along with other subsidiaries across the globe, understand what the sudden pick in the demand, and how quickly we can manufacture that and make it available. And that too when there is scarcity of flights, when there is scarcity of vessels to move that goods from one point to another point. So these are the key points wherein I would say that close collaboration not only within the supply chain but across the value chain, wherein sales first and foremost, because they are the front of any organization. They come to us with the thing that how much product they would need in this pandemic, what they expect looking at the scenario. And also this is not just about the whole value chain is about government policies, what they are announcing about the future consequences, how it will pick. So Rajat and Deepesh, I would say, specifically talked about the trend that it took a V shape, went down, and suddenly it picked up. So it happened with the corona also. So at a point, it was low in India, and suddenly it picked up. It went up to millions of cases a day. So in such scenario, demand equally increased for our product, and not only for the headphones but also for the earbuds and for the microphone system. So aligning everything together, taking out the crux from it, evaluating that how much it will result into a demand, plus some buffer, because this is a time wherein if you have something in hand would help you to cover up future pandemic or how it will react. So that give us a lot of learning internally, that first technology which help you to build a robust system. As Deepesh rightly said, that everything what is talked about is not true, so that we have experienced in this last 7 months. So that is one most important thing. Technology play the key role. Secondly, how effective your communication is within the organization and outside the organization, and how well you are connected with your service partners, because this is the time wherein they are also facing the equal challenges, because in supply chain we all are dependent on third party, and they in turn dependent on another party. So nothing is in control of ourselves. So it depends on other country policy regulation, in internally in our state policy regulation, whether they are allowing, not allowing to move the goods, whether they are allowing to open the warehouses. So how well connected and how well informed you are is something which matters a lot during such times. And I hope this is the learning for all organization across, to have a backup, to have such robust system wherein they can pick up and get things done quickly.
So I think excellent insights in terms of collaboration. And again, I know you are in a premium sector, so essentially you cater to a particular market and you will continue to do that. So let me just extend, took a variation and just ask Mr. Rajat. Of course, you are in the FMCG CD sector, which has its own challenges when it comes to your festive season. Similarly, in terms of the service level, pre-COVID, post-COVID. So, what are your views on these?
I think Sandeep, it's a very pertinent question, and especially like Colonel Nair was saying, we've been delivering certain SLAs to our customers, whether it is the internal customers in the value chain or my consumers, around the year. Now, when it comes to the festive period, everybody is in stress. Whether it is our partners on the logistics side, whether it is our partners on the warehousing side, even some of our partners, and I'm sure Aniket would be able to kind of second this, our conversion processes, like we receive stuff from suppliers and then we co-pack it, rework it, kit it, bundle it, and then deliver it to certain other logistics partners to be delivered to the consumers. And each of these arms of the supply chain is under a fair bit of stress because none of us has over invested in any of these capabilities for the simple reason that we don't want to pay for it when the capability is idle, when the particular assets are idle. So so what happens in a festive period for us? I mean, obviously for everybody there's a demand surge, right? The first and foremost thing that we've understood is that we've been playing this game in certain channels for a long period of years, where forecasting, at least at an aggregate level, is fairly possible. So there is a certain predictable trend, whether I go to my distributor GT channels, or if I look at certain government supplies, CSD, etc., or I look at my institutional supplies, and I know what institutions are going to come up with what kind of schemes, and the engagement. We are so well entrenched with each other in some of these uh, planning processes, that we are fairly aware of the kind of demand we are going to face. Now, obviously, that did not happen post COVID. the excuse me, sorry guys. So the whole demand pattern changed, but since the entrenchment was high, we could reach out to the ground level to understand every 15 days. So obviously we had to change the S&OP frequency from a month to a fortnight, and I'm sure a lot of us would have run a mini S&OP like every week. But this is an area where we were so well entrenched that we could get ground news and redistribute stock, plan it in a better way to say which are the green areas of the country. When I say a green area, it's an area where the vehicle can reach and the customer can also come to the buy point. Obviously, the other channels sprung up. Now these are channels where sorry guys, these are channels where we don't have a history, right? Or we have history for products. Like I'll give you examples. We have a great history on the e-commerce channels for bottles, but what picked up post COVID was cleaning equipments, and we hadn't sold enough of cleaning equipments in the past to have a history to say which part of India will pick up at what price points and what range of products, and who should I push or pull. I mean, should I pump up Flipkart, should I pump up Amazon, should I go to Cloudtail, should I run some of my operations, should I pump up north, east, south? So this is exactly where, and I'm referring to a couple of comments that people have put up in the comments chart. So yes, guys, this is where technology has helped us. This is where whatever effort we had put in the past on creating visibility has proved to be successful. So if I had visibility on my inventories, my partners' inventories, and their throughputs, in whichever channel I had those were the channels I was able to address in a far, far better way, upholding my SLAs even in these turbulent times. It was channels where I did not create this visibility, or channels where I did not have a specific history or pattern, and even technology could not help me there, is where we found ourselves, constrained and restricted and unable to deliver the same kind of SLAs. Obviously, from all that we have learned across many years, like in our in our kind of industry, what we've learned is storage space is always going to take a spike pre-Diwali, or when I was with some of the other electronics agencies, there was Diwali, there was New Year, there was March. So we've all learnt our patterns of our businesses, and we know that these are times when we have to stock up more, and that needs space. We obviously have our own fixed arrangements. There are DCs that are able to cater to larger volumes by way of storage solutions. There are smaller FCs that we are able to expand by way of old traditional relationships. So you can call up one of your old CFA partners and tell him that, like every time on Diwali, I want a 5,000 square feet space this time also, and he'll kind of arrange a specific small warehouse. We call it galas. So for a box and box, or they'll arrange a specific gala at a low cost, and you kind of wade through with that kind of space. But what has happened now is that these spikes are the magnitude of the spikes is so high that those arrangements have started to fail. Now come in people like Godamwala, or some of the other guys, and I'm not sure if CargoFL is doing the same, but we have our partners who are now offering us variable space. So we've made some arrangements with them, and we said, okay, this is going to be a broad consumption pattern, but can you give me a 25% up and down spike? Obviously there's a commercial premium attached to it, but it finally we end up saving a lot of money, and being able to pump in so much more stock, and cash in on so much extra incremental sale. If that variable space was not available, then we would have had to get into certain very, very difficult to handle relationships and commitments. So that's on space. Number two is like Karthik and Colin and I were mentioning, is the logistics piece. Now, obviously, the number of vehicles is going to remain the same. I mean, across the country or the state or the city, and your particular play arena, and you want more and more. So what do you play with? You play with the inventories. You create your semi hubs and DCs and RDCs, and we've all been doing that. Now, this is exactly where our histories have helped us, because you can aggregate sales patterns across channels. And what we have seen, especially in FMCG, is the crowd is reacting very, very, in a very region specific pattern. So North reacts to a particular product category in the same magnitude in the GT channel or the CSD channel or the e-commerce channel or the retail channel. So there might be a little plus and minus, but the response of a particular set of people to a particular kind of product is similar across channels. And this is what we observed, this is what data told us, and hence we changed all our planning processes, and we said, okay, when I plan for space, I'm going to look at all channels in this particular region. So this is what we did. Number two, this is where the newer algorithms came into play, where they could respond very quickly to what has happened in the recent past. So the long-term histories were always there, and we were able to say with a higher accuracy what I'm going to do on the year. But what am I going to do this month? What am I going to do this week? That got disrupted. This is where whatever we had invested in better algorithms, and I'm completely aligned to Deepesh when he said we mustn't rely on AI and ML to solve everything and anything under the sun. But what he also meant was that the capabilities there are increasing. As much as much data as we are able to feed these systems and to make them learn, it will take time, but they will soon start yielding results. So this is what also everybody is doing. And the last part of my answer to this question, Sandeep, I'm going to take 2 more minutes.
Yeah, sure.
But this is the e-commerce operations, and we've had one hell of a ride there, because we realized that this spike did not just mean getting additional space. it meant getting additional manpower. And with whatever Aniket and these guys are doing on the BBDs and the schemes and all these festive sales periods, it is killing us to death. You've got to get space, and then you got to get manpower, and then how will you train this new manpower to operate on these systems which they've never seen, and then to get in efficiencies that we are already looking at. So I think these are games that we are trying to learn. But in a nutshell, yes, what we are all trying to do is create capabilities for future, right? Create capabilities for disruption, and this is what we call making supply chains resilient. Also, what we are trying to do is to not go overboard your budgets, variabilize all kinds of fixed costs that we never even thought about. Space is something that we've got opportunities with certain other partners coming in, but we're also variabilizing manpower costs. Today there are possibilities of getting project manpower, and we are running various T&D schemes, learning schemes through the year in order to have this additional capacity of workforce which knows how to handle a particular job. So I think that's the end of my.
I think very, very practical insights, resilience, preparing for the future, preparing for disruption. I think a lot of learnings from what we saw. So next, again, I will just extend this to Alexandre. In fact, if you look at it, everybody had that they need to plan well in advance for the festive season. So if I have to look at it, what are your top 3 priorities when it talks about the festive season? Because you have to finally cater to customer demand. In fact, it's all about customer delight. So, what do you think are the top 3 priorities which anybody should look at when it comes to logistics or a supply chain kind of a function?
Clear. So, first thing is the context. So, before I start speaking, answering to the 3 different priorities that you have asked me, first, the context is very special when there is a festive season. As everybody knows, it's one of the most important periods of the year. Being a service provider in the heart of the supply chain of our customers, our role is extremely important to deliver efficiency, quality, and to delight the customers of our customers. So we always keep the customers of our customers in mind, not only at top level, but everywhere. In all our meetings, our trainings, we make sure that each and every person in FM Logistic, collaborator in FM Logistic India is aware about the impact of his work on the end consumer or on the customer of our customers. This is extremely important. And the festive season is not only for important from a social and cultural perspective, but also from an economic perspective, where consumption is the highest. And especially now post-COVID, when a lot of companies had a lot of issues of volumes, now are counting on the festive season to be really a savior of the year. And I hope all the best for all the companies. And we are here as a service provider to support our customers at the level best, and also to partner with new prospects as well, and then really give the highest efficiency level services there. To answer to your question, I would use one proverb or a saying in French that I will translate, which is the basic. Gouverner, c'est prévoir. It means to govern is to foresee. If we want to govern, control, be at the top of any subject, we need to foresee, we need to forecast, we need to plan as much as possible. Of course, we need to be always open to adapt, to amend, to be flexible, but without putting all the efforts to foresee, to try to anticipate what will happen based on data, based on the past, based on the experiences, but based also on the patterns that we see, that we have seen in the near past, but also in the present. So as we can really plan very well and have everything in place to be able to deliver at the level best. So practically, the work starts several months before the festive season. It cannot happen during the festive season. It is before, at least 3 months, 4 months before. So our job as a contract logistics service provider is to work much in advance with our customers to set up the right strategies and tactical plans in place to be fully ready ahead of the season with trained resources. So we'll always have a core team in our warehouses or distribution services, core suppliers. So everything, any kind of solid building needs to be on solid foundation. The foundation of our business model are very well-trained people on our role. So we'll ramp up on variable manpower, but the core team needs to be very well-trained team on your role. They will defend your logo. They will fight for you in the war as solidaires, not as mercenaries. So they will be there for you. They will support you. They will train the new guys. So we will have a lot of variable manpower in place to cater to the additional volume. But as Mr. Vijay said, they are not trained. They are not going to be able to really add value. They are not the ones that are going to create a difference. It's your team that is always with you, for which you create special incentives to encourage the productivity and encourage the volume ramp up. They are going to train. They are going to supervise. They are going to make sure that the quality is under control. They are going to make sure that the safety, the compliance is not forgotten. Because what happens most of the time is that because of volume, people will focus on physical job. They will forget the basics. So later on, there will be a lot of quality issues. So if you want to succeed in a festive season, have fixed core team that is very well trained, engaged, and committed with you. You can always increase with variable manpower, but variable manpower, of course, will give you variable quality. We should not have any kind of illusion about this. Variable manpower is variable quality, variable delivery. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. If you want to fix and be committed to the quality, you need to have a good mix. And the core team needs to be on your role, people that are trained and committed. So this is one of the most important parts that needs to be taken care of. So if we speak about the warehousing, the best solution about the festive season is to host your stock in a multi-customer facility. Because we speak about a multi-customer facility, to my mind, and this is the global understanding, is 5 lakh square feet plus. We cannot call a real like XXL multi-customer facility for 1 lakh square feet. 5 lakh square feet, one roof, multiple customers, very strong teams that are fixed there, very strong technology that can be multi-customer oriented, a lot of IT driven. There is nothing manual. It should be IT driven. There is like one dock for each 10,000 square feet. So multiple docks. You can scale up, scale down. You won't have any much of a technical limit because it's 12-meter height. So we speak about A-grade facilities that you can go vertical, you can go horizontal, you can use as much docks as you want, and everything is shared with multiple customers, creating synergies, creating added value, mutualizing the efforts to succeed in a plan. So having your stock in a multi-customer facility, and this is what we propose in India, and we are one of the biggest leaders globally in the mutualization, the pooling of volumes, starting from our own built or partnered multi-customer facilities, XXL, A-grade. This is what will allow very fast scalability without going outside, without going to galas, without going to CFAs where the quality may not be maintained. Maybe the safety, maybe the compliance won't be there. And even you cannot maybe rely on all of them. Some people will give you some kind of like promises, but it's not a professional service. So on a multi-customer facility, you can scale up quickly without adding new warehouses, without giving deposits, without taking a risk on your stock integrity and stock variances. This is the best way to manage a peak. So this is our global experience globally. There is a last part I would say it's really related to IT. More and more technology and IT. More and more, since volume is increasing, you can use a lot of automation, and it can be on simple things. It can be on on packing. It can be on wrapping pallets, unwrapping pallets. It can be on, for example, loading and unloading trucks. So you can use technology. You are not always obliged to just rely on labor or manpower to do simple things. This is one. Two, you need to test your IT solidity before the peak. You need to do stress tests to your WMS. You need to make sure that all your routers, all your servers, all your setup is solid, because if there is a downtime of IT during a peak season, you will have a backlog. You need, during the execution as well, you need to keep the monitoring on an hourly basis, even sometimes on 30 minutes basis, to have your WMS, your TMS, and all the IT tools giving you all the dashboards to see if there is any backlog that is getting created because of some issue, to see the heat map based on the scanners, IoT, it's IoT based scanners of your manpower, of your collaborators. You will see that there is some congestion somewhere in the warehouse, so you can go and really act on it. So as there is no backlog that can happen, you have to manage the docks very well. You have to manage the transporters as well that are coming to your warehouse very well. You have to provide parking spaces somewhere, else you will have a lot of mess in the docking and docking of your trucks, and it will impact your unloading, loading, etc. So very strict execution of processes, very clear planning, trained manpower that is committed, IT that is very reliable, MHEs, equipments that are maintained solid with additional backups, and everything needs to be backed up. Everything needs to be backed up. Manpower, you need to have a core team as well, but also you need to have multi-skilled team that can go from one customer to the other and know exactly what to do. So those things need to be prepared ahead of the peak season, else we are not going to govern. We are going to not govern. We are going to firefight, which is not the target of any supply chain director or any head of any operation. You need to foresee, then you can govern. This is what I wanted to say.
Perfect. So very, very practical insight. So let me quickly come to Aniket in terms of the last mile happens to still to be the most costly affair in any supply chain. So what are the kind of things? So how do you plan to reduce it, or what are the kind of things companies are doing to address this?
Sure. So yes, Sandeep. So as you correctly pointed out, it's a major chunk of the cost, the last mile piece. But having said that, again, we are more of an end-to-end player with an expertise in last mile. So we work extensively with the FMCG and FMCD companies where we pick up from the plant and deliver to the depots or distributors in the supply chain, or to do a CFA to a distributor, or a distributor to a customer. So we are working across the supply chain, and of course, all of this is really, and I think before this, all panelists have touched upon this, that none of the optimization or the reductions of cost is possible without technology, right? And for each of the deliveries that I had talked about earlier, we have a tailor-made technology that we use to do the delivery, as well as to provide end-to-end visibility of shipments to our customers. So whether it is real-time availability of supply in terms of delivery partners in an area, or whether it is the exact proof of delivery to be uploaded at the point of handing over a shipment. So all of this is completely covered in our technology. So whatever cost reducing levers that I talk about, our technology is at the core of it. So we have developed a very interesting platform, which is comparable to, let's say, Uber, where any delivery partner can come on the platform and actually do deliveries, whether it's a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler, on a variable basis. So all of this, actually to the customer, what it ends up is as a variabilization of cost, right? And I think panelists before have also spoken of this, that it has to be variabilized. Rajat spoke about flex in warehousing, right? And flex in peaks, not just festival season, but there are peaks which happen within the day. For example, there are slots where in the night or in the afternoon, food deliveries spike, or in the first 10 days of the month, grocery deliveries spike, right? Or wherever there's a sale period, e-commerce deliveries spike. So there's a lot of comfort with customers in creating a variable kind of a cost structure, and that is what we enable for them. So it's to the maximum extent possible. Our costing is mostly on a per kg or a per order basis, and that really helps in variabilizing costs for the consumer. So you're really not sitting on capacity that you need to plan for and bearing that cost, right? So there is of course some sort of mitigation of risk, some sort of skin in the game for both customers and us, but then to a great extent it is variabilized. So this crowdsource model really helps us to have the best in class variability, capacity to manage variability on the platform. But that also brings in the complexity of training, right? Which again I was referring to, where how do you train your manpower, etc. So all of this is where technology comes in, where we have modules which are bite sized, and anyone doing a delivery on the system, or anyone working in a warehouse of ours, or anyone who's driving a middle mile vehicle for us, have to undergo some sort of training, and that is strictly governed through technology, right? Apart from that, of course, there are all of this has to be done keeping in mind standards of grooming of delivery partners, right? So we have developed technology. For example, someone who's doing a food delivery or a grocery delivery, they will have to kind of upload a selfie of theirs on our system before starting work in the day. And if they are not groomed as per our algorithm, they are not allowed to take orders. Similarly, if you're running a temperature on that day, especially in times of COVID, you're not allowed to do deliveries, right? So these are innovations that we've done in technology to really bring down costs. The second, of course, is it's all an asset light model that we operate on. So our riders bring their own vehicles, and we have variable kind of arrangements with our delivery partners or our fleet operators. So all of this is an asset light model that we operate on. So that is the second lever that we use to reduce costs. And so all of this is basically coming down to that variable nature of delivery that we're talking about, right? So wherever we pick up from a plant of a major FMCG player, it is really a pair. We work with electronics players like in mobile phones and tablets, who do not even have a warehouse and we pick up directly from their plants, right? So therein we are helping them save a lot in terms of the sheer space that they would have had to spend. And multi-tenant was also talked about earlier. So the multi-tenant warehousing is something that is the most recent element of the supply chain that we've got into, and that too gives customers a flexibility in terms of 20 or 30% kind of a flex, which someone was mentioning in the comments during sale period. So that kind of flexibility and that benefit of cost, because we are operating multi-tenant warehouse. Yeah,
I think excellent insight. So finally, if you look at it, everybody's spoke about technology, and so I think the fulcrum is on you, Deepesh. So essentially, what I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of inhibition in adopting technology, and second, people are thinking whether it to make a software or buy a software. So what are your views? What is your advice to people, whether you should do a make versus buy, or what are the typical challenges when it comes to technology adoption? Because everybody talks about technology, but what we have seen is a lot of time the change management is not proper. People have a tool, but it is not effective. So if you can share some of your insights, that will be very, very helpful for the audience. I think Deepesh, you are on mute.
Yeah, my bad. So thanks, Sandeep.
Yeah.
I think everyone in the panel almost talked about very, very good use cases. I think like Vijay sir talked about how we have to predict the demand, how we have to plan the warehouse, shortage of transporters, and how many people we need, and that kind of demand. And Kartik, I think you talked about how to manage your service partners. How do we need a robust system for that? And if I have some notes, I think Rajat, you talked about that forecasting is definitely possible, but it has to be that static, right? And I think, Amine, you talked about foreseeing the trend, which is very nice. And Aniket, you talked about optimization. So I was taking some notes as you guys were speaking. Almost everything. Um, I'm sorry, I'm getting a background. Yeah. So almost everything, all these use cases can well be handled within the technology ecosystem, but we just have to take one piece at a time. So coming back to Sandeep's question, yes, what I have seen is whenever I talk to customers, when we sit on a table and we discuss about how to bring in technology, the first question always is, like what I mentioned before, is ROI, right? From a business perspective, how we can get the right ROI. That's the first question. Second question, or second confusion, I'll say, some kind of inhibition in people is, as a business, I have seen customers are a little, like overwhelmed with a lot of information. For example, there are N type of sensors. So let's talk about, let's say if I have to track my vehicle. So there's an IoT gateway, there's a GPS tracker. Then, every company gives with some version. Some, like some people add the driver behavior to it. Some people add, the braking to it. So a lot of things come, in different packages. And there are so many tools, so many companies who are giving these kind of sensors, and these sensors pump in so much of data into the data lake. That's fine. You have that information, but where will this stop, right? As a business, you don't want to have a continuous investment going on and up. So the investment it'll go up in the beginning, but it has to stabilize at one point in time. So that's the second inhibition. How do I know that after X number of months, my investment will stabilize? Otherwise, my ROI will never come, right? So that's the second confusion. Third confusion is, how do we scale it in an organic fashion? So let's say I'm giving a simple example. If I have to put some sensor which turns off my light on and off in a warehouse, right? Do I need 100 such sensors, or do I need 50? If my warehouse square feet is, let's say, X, like what Amine was saying, like 5 lakh square feet or something, then for that, how much technology needs to be put in there? That calculation has to happen, right? So different vendors will calculate it in like different ways. But if you see all these things, if you tie all these things together, we want to have a value from a technology, but at the right ROI which the business demands. So that is the biggest inhibition. So if you have a right partner, that partner will not try to sell the technology to you. The partner will say, okay, this is your business problem, this is what we should be doing after looking at all the equations out there to achieve this kind of an ROI. If you have an ROI target of so and so, to achieve there, we have to go step by step, right? First, we have to do the process rationalization within the company, identify processes which can be rationalized. Second step, you need to tie those processes together. So if I have an inventory department or a spare parts management kind of a department, if there is a fleet company, or if I have fleet management, the data from my inventory has to flow into my fleet so that they know when those vehicles need to be placed. I mean, the demand and supply has to be connected, right? So setting up just one department or standardizing one department will not help. There should be a streaming between the processes which can help us. Third, once these two steps are done, the third step, what in our experience, how we have done with our customers, that's where the analytics come into play, the business analytics. Data analytics obviously there, but on top of it, the business analytics, which is specific to your business, specific to your industry. What are the parameters? What are the check marks which we should look at? So on my first month, let's say my SLA was at X number of days. The second month it went up. I mean, it went good, right? Third month it went further good. But when you fine tune it further, it breaks at one point in time because there's a limit to your resources. So that analytics will come in the third part of this whole journey. So these are certain inhibitions which I have seen because I talked to so many customers, and even this panel, I got a lot of good information about the perspective from this panel. But in the end, it's all about taking a holistic approach, looking at piece by piece of the puzzle. Let's solve one at a time, get the ROI, make the business successful. If business is successful, if you're getting the ROI, definitely business will invest more. That's how we have to take this journey. So that's my take on this, Sandeep.
I think very, very relevant points. I think now we will take some of the audience questions. So Basundhara, over to you.
Right, indeed, excellent insights and practical challenges in the discussion today. So without further ado, we'll be taking the questions because we're running behind schedule. So I would take this quick question from Mr. Give me 1 minute. Mr. Pankaj Salpekar, who wants to know, right, his question is, in this COVID situation, many consumers have moved to e-commerce and need of omni-channel has moved up. Do you foresee this trend will continue post-COVID or will it be reversed? I'd like to direct this question to the entire panel. So if anybody would want to answer this.
I can answer this from my end, and I will let the other panelists also add something on that. So, of course, with the pandemic, the omni-channel strategy became extremely important for all the customers, and there is like multiple ways how to execute it through marketplaces or through own websites and multiple other ways. So there was a peak on this. So it was supposed to still take some time, but COVID accelerated the speed from, let's say, 30 kilometers per hour to 200 kilometers per hour. So all customers wants to be in the omni-channel parts, but I don't think that this will decrease after the crisis, because now it created some expectation from the customers. It's becoming a very strong piece of the overall strategic puzzle of the companies. So the omni-channel part now, and especially thanks to usage of phone and all the people that are connected in India, which India has like the biggest number of people having access to data in the world. So, and even the tier 3 cities are now part of this omni-channel strategy from the customer side. So, which means that the market is huge, the potential is huge. The companies has invested very much. Still, there is a lot of investments, and it requires very reliable service providers. So we are one of the service providers that offer this kind of strength of technology, of warehouses, of deliveries to multiple customers, and we offer also a full set of services like the connectivity of all the IT tools, from the website till the delivery IT, and also all what is related to the after sale services that are there, the return management, and so on and so forth. So omnichannel will remain. It will still increase. I'm sure that there will be always brick and mortar combination combined with e-commerce channels, forming a very balanced and very efficient omni-channel strategy that will be followed by the maximum of retailers and other companies as well. This is my input. Please feel free to add any items, please.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful answer to that. I would like to invite the other users if they want to add anything to it, or I'll be taking the next question.
So just one point, putting the icing on the cake, what Amine talked about. I had seen that trend. So like 2018, we were 40%, 30% online omni-channel and 70% offline. 2019, it turned to be 50-50. And in 2020, it is 80-20. So 80 is your online and omni-channel and 20 is offline. So though there is a pandemic wherein people cannot go out, but trend would not reverse back to 50-50. It would go up to 60-65 versus 30-35. So offline will definitely go down.
So I'll also add quickly, just 1 second. What we learn to use and what is advantageous always stays. And we've all, we've all experienced that, omni-channel has provided advantages, not only in terms of a higher connectivity, but there are cases where it is actually proven to be even more economic than what we were doing erstwhile. So it is obviously going to stay.
Right. So moving on to the next question. This question is from Mr. 𝐒𝐻𝐲�ż 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐯𝐲. He's asking, in India, the overall e-commerce forecasted an order volume growth of 20 to 30% significantly, with categories like health, pharma, fashion, FMCG, and agriculture too. Do you think lean, agile supply chain and digitalization is important in this crisis with limited investments? I would like to address this question to to Lieutenant Colonel Mr. Nair, sir. If you can kindly provide your inputs on the same.
So, yeah. So e-com, of course, it's going to be the next best thing. So we were asked in the previous question also, is Omni going to remain? What is
Right.
Omni or e-com is providing convenience, and every customer seeks convenience. And today, giving Omni is adding another way on how a customer can shop. And what is e-com leading to is that with each passing day, all the supply chain elements are evolving in such a manner that the time to delivery has been reduced as low as maybe 3 hours. Pick to store, pick from the store, pick it up, deliver at a particular location, deliver at the customer locations. All this adds to convenience, and wherever convenience is there, this portion of the this segment of the business will always grow. So there is no doubt that e-com will grow. So if and what is the second part of the question you asked, Shamna?
Let me just ask the if we can get the question
What was the second part of the question?
Yes. So he asked, do you think lean, agile supply chain and digitalization is important in this crisis with limited investments?
I mean, it's a given. Of course, it is. Lean and agile supply chain is going to be. There's no. It's of course a certain yes. Of course, it will be yes. And how we build it is where our capability lies.
Indeed, sir. Thank you so much for your insightful response to that. So moving on to the next question, we have it's from Mr. Nizam PA. He's asking, can you please share your thoughts on digital transformation in logistics procurement platform? I would like to address this question to Mr. Deepesh Kuruppath, sir, if you can take it forward.
Yeah. So we recently completed an implementation on logistics procurement platform. We just went live with this. Yes, I mean, digital transformation is definitely required so that you can tie all the pieces together. One example, I can tell you for the customer whom we did this. So so it's all about the spare parts management, right? So how the spare parts were coming in, where the spare part is being used, so how you are procuring it, right from the purchase order to your material invert to your material clearance. Then also you have to manage your returns. Let's say if you do not get all the parts at one go. So digitization is like very much required because that adds to your analysis of your cost. I mean the cost analysis to get a better picture into how your company is faring from that perspective. And if you want to get cost savings, improvement in your productivity, that's a very, very important thing to do. So I think we should be doing a digital transformation of the logistics procurement process.
Indeed. Thank you, sir, for such a crisp response. The next question is from Mr. Gaurav Dubey, who is the co-founder and lead at business development at Logistics Insider. His question is Indian market ready to accept warehouse automation, considering the costs involved in it? It's an open question to the entire panel, if anyone would like to answer.
So I will just give a very quick answer to that. Of course, I'm sure about the potential of automation in India, but we are still in a level where there is a need-based automation, which means that in other countries, since there is no, like the square footage is extremely expensive, and the manpower cost is extremely expensive as well. So you need to standardize the products, your SKUs, to make everything standard, so as you can use a lot of automation and a lot of technology in the execution of your warehousing services. In India, still the manpower, for the moment, is affordable. So it's not always, it doesn't make always sense to, in terms of ROI, to go ahead. But in my opinion, in pieces of the warehouse activities, for example, it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes when we don't ask ourselves the right question of, can we automatize that? Then we can lose an opportunity to have a need-based automation. It cannot, sometimes it's not that expensive. Sometimes it gives you a very direct ROI. It can be on unloading, it can be on loading, it can be on packing, it can be on many different things. And there is a lot now of Indian service providers of very efficient, low-cost, long-term automation, which is, before it was more expensive because everything is important. Today, India has very strong capabilities in that, and I'm sure there will be always a possibility to have some automation. And little by little, with the increase of the salaries, because this is the correct sense of history. This is what happened in China and all the other countries that are fast developing economically. At one point, the salaries increase. At that time, If you didn't start already having this culture of automation and digitalization, you will be out of the market. So it starts now. It starts now. And it starts with sometimes small, simple things. And sometimes we can invest as an investment and maybe not have a great ROI. But it will be very important to invest into that, to bring that culture, to bring that mindset also in the organization. It's a very good investment.
Indeed, sir. Thank you so much for highlighting such an important point. So before we wind up, I have one question to for Mr. Aniket Nathvani and Mr. KARTIK Shah, sir. I would like both of your inputs on the same. It's about how can companies tackle the surge in demand at a time when the workforce is limited, especially with that staff being on leave for the festive season. How can this be tackled?
Okay, so I'll take a hit at it first. So I think, yeah, so this is and especially in the Indian context, this is a huge challenge, because we know every year during festive season there is a migration which is there. We know that from this date to this date we will have a shortage of manpower. So of course one solution is to plan for it in advance, and one solution is to really plan capacities aligned with your customers as well, to manage their customer expectations of demand in this period. So one solution here is to definitely do that, because we know it that this is going to happen. When it comes to the other kind of surges, again, so we have to manage. So as panelists have said earlier, there is only a limited number of people who do deliveries, or there's only a limited number of vans or last mile delivery space. So there can be several. In fact, Lieutenant Colonel was mentioning about innovative models like society deliveries, right, where you have a mobile van with warehouse inventory, which can go and sell while standing outside the society. So during COVID period, we have actually seen these kind of models also come in, which really reduces the need of manpower, and which really can help you focus on your demand catchments, and put in the right amount of investment behind your demand side. So I think these kind of innovative solutions definitely help. What else we do internally as a platform is, because we are a platform where someone can do orders on a variable basis, we also cross utilize our fleet. So if someone is doing a food or delivery today, they can actually choose to do a grocery delivery tomorrow. And even within the day there are variances. So there are peak hours where in the early morning people will prefer to receive their groceries, or in the late evenings. However, for food there's a lunch hour, so the same person can actually be utilized to do both kind of deliveries in a day. So having a platform and having deep integrations across these different channels helps us to use the same manpower to do different deliveries, and increase their efficiencies and their chances to earn also on the platform. So these are some of the ways in which we plan for surges, or we plan for festive periods where we anticipate manpower.
So to
Right,
add
sir.
on to what Aniket said, I would add 2 points. One is basically what we are doing is because it's sudden demand wherein you need the additional manpower. So what we keep on doing is the temporary resources which comes to the warehouse to do the job during the peak time. We keep on calling them on quarterly basis or on monthly basis as the need arise. We keep on training them on how to do things, basic things, which will not only help them to help us in doing our job, but when they go somewhere else, they are ready to do some great job with great monetary things in place. Secondly, what I do personally is because as everyone else also said, we have limitations of resources in terms of transporters, in terms of warehouse operators, in terms of flight operators or truck operators, or for that sake, so on and so forth. So what you need to keep on doing is, rather than waiting for the last thing to happen or suddenly demand to come, you need to keep on doing experimentation. So along with planning, you need to execute, you need to search, you need to do experiment with the new partners, which we keep on doing. So when such peak comes, like during this pandemic time, or now in last 2 months this festive season, we got delivery requirement from Amazon or from Flipkart or for that sake Tata Click to deliver on very stipulated time frame. So therein we have experimented with lot of partners in past, wherein they have committed that like from Delhi to Bangalore, or for that sake from Delhi to Chennai, we can deliver this stuff in 72 hours, or for that sake in 84 hours. So that is something which you need to do key experiments. Then only you will find that who will able to help you.
Right.
Vasundhara, can I add over here, please?
Yes, sir. I was just about to ask you.
So,
I was just about to ask you to add inputs to the same.
Yeah. So it is on people productivity is very close to my heart. So during the regular time and the festival time, as I said earlier also, the difference is the quantum of volume that comes inside. So here is somewhere where technology and the manufacturers or distributors have to come together. How is it that the same man can give more at a small additional cost and some kind of technology addition? Can we have store ready packs coming so that we can cross stock this thing? So that will increase the productivity. Second is that how efficiently are you scheduling the dock? The largest time waster is for the transporter who waits at the dock before unloading. Can IT solutions be made available where you can do scheduling of the dock? Are the distributors all giving us advanced shipping note wherein directly, which is 100% right, where their loading is audited, and so that when it comes to the warehouse with minimal checking, you can put it inside? Are the distributors and manufacturers ready to give us products in palletized load so that a forklift or a battery operated pallet truck can go inside and pull it out? Even if you don't do it on daily basis, because of truck utilization reduces the moment you put pallet loads. But for the festival season, are they ready to marry up with us and do this kind of improvements? Those are the elements which are going to have remarkable productivity improvements. So here is where between us and service providers who are running warehouses for distributors or who are distributors themselves, they are supposed to cooperate with the retailers to see how much of more work can they do. When we take on the vehicle side, because vehicle has also got people, how do you make sure that they do that required number of hours? A routing vehicle and a load optimizer software which Rupesh will provide. This also helps in optimal utilization of the vehicle. Today, a normal vehicle utilization about 65 to 70% at best. Can this be made to 85 and 90%? That means your utilization and turnaround of the vehicle is much better. So these are some of the elements which I feel that we need to do. There was something very beautiful Alexandre told. Another big time waster is equipment downtime. Your battery is not charged for the handheld terminals, your MHE battery is going down, not having spares at the right time. One MHE going down in the warehouse will block your productivity by 1/3%.
Yeah.
So how is it that you're ensuring that these things don't happen? Because these are what accumulate your additional manpower and reduce the overall productivity. And solution certainly is not adding manpower. A solution is how do you add efficiency to the same number of people who can do a faster, better, more volume of work. That's all, Vasundhara.
I totally agree with you. I would just add that the HR strategy also needs to be very strong in terms of training, motivating, having the right bonuses during this part related during the season, related to productivity, to attendance, the mix of manpower, because there is a lot of new manpower that is coming. So the mix of manpower is extremely important. So if you have the same village, everybody coming from the same village, from your, for example, variable manpower, maybe there is something happening in the village, nobody shows up. So you have to keep the right mix of manpower during the season. After that, this manpower that you bring during the season is extremely important. It's a good opportunity for the company to also know who are the best ones that needs to be recruited later. Because being service providers, we have large like facilities and large number of customers. We will always have a requirement of blue collars, white collars, collaborators, strong ones, and this variable manpower that comes, or temporary workers, collaborators that come during the festive season, is a big bank of skills as well and competencies. So HR needs to keep an eye. And during this part, there is also the conditions of work that needs to be improved. So snacks, breaks, like heat, to not be very much if the festive season is during heat time or in an area where there is some heat. So a lot of canteen, a lot of things needs to be there. So there's small investments, but the impact on productivity is huge. A promise of recruitment after a good performance, and you do it. You do it. You commit and you do it. Boost the morale like anything. Productivity will increase. We can always speak about IoT, blockchain, technology. By the end of the day, all this is related to human being. The human being needs to be motivated, given a sense, given a perspective, because he can perform. That's the most important.
Yeah, I just want
Right,
to,
indeed.
add to what Amine said. Vasundhara, I just want to add to what Amine said.
Sure,
So
sure,
yes,
sure.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like in the end, the human element matters a lot. It's a huge thing, right? And I just wanted to talk about like 2 points, which I think Vijay sir also talked about. So one is transporter performance. So within CargoFL, we have a transporter performance module, which will help us assess all our transporters, like how they have been doing over the year. I mean, over a period of time, over the 1 month or 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, right? So we gather all the data. We look at different SLAs, when they have come on time, how much time they have spent on loading, how much time they have spent on unloading. So we collect all this information. And once they start the trip, have they arrived the other side on time? So we capture that information and we create a
Right.
report card. And that report card can be given to these transporters. So when you renew the contract for them next year, there is something which we have, which we can tell them, say, because of your this performance, we can increase your rate only by Y%, right? So there is a proper process how we can increase the rate for these transports. So we can measure that human element is actually where I was coming to. And also, I think
Right.
Nair sir mentioned about the loading and unloading time at the docks. So we have a feature called TTO, which is like time in, time out, and it's a very simple thing. So there are 2 ways of doing it. One with the hardware, but we also have a non-hardware solution where if my truck comes to my dock, how much time does it take for loading and unloading? So the moment it comes and the moment it leaves, we capture those metrics in a very, very creative way, right? So if you have money to invest, yeah, we can go in a very fancy with a lot of hardware kind of a thing. But there's also a very, very creative way of doing it. And finally, if that ties together into the transporter performance and the overall operation, it becomes a beautiful implementation. And we have done that for one of our customers. So I just wanted to bring it up because Sir touched upon those points. Yeah.
Indeed, sir. Thank you for providing insights to the same. So, since we are running behind schedule, we'll be closing the discussion for today. As the festive season will indeed be an opportunity for redemption as the industry claws out from the abyss into the path of growth. So, as we approach the end of today's very engaging discussion, we take with us the key highlights and suggestions from our expert panelists today towards gearing up the supply chains to fruitfully drive customer delight during this festive season. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our erudite panel of speakers for taking the time off your busy schedule for such a wonderfully drawn out discussion that will undoubtedly benefit our viewers who have joined us today. So thank you to every one of you. A special word of thanks to Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee sir for steering and moderating today's discussion to perfection. Also, I'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our I would like to extend my gratitude to our sponsors, CargoFL and Shadowfax, for supporting today's enriching discussion. And last, but definitely not the least, our viewers for their insightful questions and for making this event possible. I hope you all enjoy the festive season to the fullest, and of course, that you stay safe and healthy. With this,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
with
so much.
this,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With this,
Thank
I
you.
take my
Thank you,
leave.
guys. Yeah. Thank you, bye.